Welcome to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. If you have problems with the IRS, don't focus on the negative, focus on the solutions. With the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish. For over 15 years, he's been helping taxpayers with IRS problems reclaim their lives and their financial stability. Now, here's your host of the IRS Solution Attorney Show, Darrin T. Mish.
Good morning. This is the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. You are all fired up. We are going to have to get you in here an hour earlier every week.
We just did an hour show that we pre-recorded for some of the times that when Katrina and I can't be here in the studio. And it's nice to get warmed up in the morning, you know?
Yeah. Ready to go.
It can be kind of challenging sometimes to just pull right in out of traffic and just go right into the show.
Which is what I did, literally, almost.
And to be happy-go-lucky IRS Solution Attorney guy.
So does that mean you're ready to do another hour after this one?
I am. I don't know about that.
Wait, you're like, wait a minute. This hour, not another hour.
Well, hold on. You tricked me a little bit. But today's show is kind of cool. It's a little bit different. We're not going to talk all that much about taxes, maybe not even talk about taxes at all today, but we are going to talk about tips on how to teach your children about money.
This is right on time. It's summertime.
And I'm not really sure what qualifies me to even talk about this other than the fact that I do have children. In fact, one of my children is here in the studio today. That would be Ryan P. Mish, who is standing by. Ryan's 15 years old, and he is giving me that teenage death stare right at the moment.
I'm not talking.
He is not mic'd up. He does not have headphones on, but he can hear me talking.
He's actually shaking his head. I'm going to have to swing the Facebook cam over there.
Is it a shake or is it a nod? If it was a nod, that'd be positive. It's a shake, not so much.
He's covering his face, so I'm assuming that's a no.
So, most parents probably feel like I do, and their kids are really their reason for existence. That's how I feel, at least. And
Agreed.
And so I think one of our...
Don't take that to heart. You're a teenager.
One of our top God-given... jobs is to teach our kids and to help make them into better people than we are. And there's no doubt that teaching them about money is really important if you want them to be successful. And I'm not even talking about being rich or wealthy or
at least be self-sufficient.
I'm not even so much talking about money as much as you just have to teach them about money so that they don't make some of the mistakes that perhaps we did. I've made plenty of mistakes about money in my life, and my goal is to help, and this isn't going to work 100% of the time, but my goal is to help my kids not make the same mistakes that I did. Hopefully they'll make different mistakes, but not the same ones that I made.
And we try to do the same thing too. And at the end of the day, you can teach them how to fly, but it's going to be up to them to fly.
They have to spread their wings at some point, right? So the basis of today's article is actually from a guy named Jim Wang. He writes about personal finance at wallethacks.com, and he's been featured in the New York Times, Business Week, and many other publications. And you can follow him on Twitter at wallethacks. And when I read the article, doing show prep, just what really struck me as just how common sense this stuff really is. And he actually laid it out for how to teach these kids from sort of the beginning of their life till the time that they get into college. So
at what age does he actually stress that you should start teaching kids about money?
I mean, he starts talking about it basically in kindergarten. You should start to teach them about savings or saving money. They're not going to get a lot of money, at elementary school age. But although my kids did, and it's because people give them money for gifts and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we've never been a family where if you get a gift from grandma or grandpa or whatever, that you get to spend that immediately on whatever.
So what did you do? Did you save it?
So I'd have to look to Ryan, and he's kind of nodding. We made him save a substantial portion of it, and they both have quite a lot of money.
So I have to ask.
In the bank.
How much were you able to save for them, saving their money from they were kids? Because we did the same thing. Any idea?
It's in the thousands.
Because I know ours was over 1,000.
It's in the thousands, and that's not all gifts. Some of that was, we talk about how we raise hogs on, they raise hogs for the fair and stuff like that. And so
they actually made money too.
I believe that they've actually, now they're high school age, or at least one's high school age and one's middle school age, and they've, in raising the hogs and selling the hogs at the fair, they've made really about $1,000 profit a year. And so they've saved the vast majority of that. And so I think that's really interesting and really good. Not necessarily how I was taught. And I'm not talking, ill of my folks or anything like that. It's just, it was a different time.
And they had different thoughts about money.
Yeah. And there was different financial circumstances. We didn't have much money. And so there wasn't a whole lot of teaching going on about money because I'm not sure there's a whole lot of knowledge about that
right
at that time.
We have more resources now than our parents ever did.
What I'm saying is my folks have learned a lot more about money since then. But also, I'm older having children than my folks were. And I think it's normal. Our generation, at least, I didn't have kids till I was in my 30s. My parents had me when they were in their early 20s. What were they going to teach me about money? They didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Their parents didn't teach them anything.
They were
about
trying
it.
just to stay, get their work so they can basically pay the bills. And that was the best they could do.
Yeah. So you have to be careful about what you try to teach your kids at different ages in their life, at different times in their lives, because obviously they're gonna evolve and they're gonna be able to absorb more when they're older than when they're younger.
It's, we have always tried to teach, and it does revert back to Dave Ramsey, but try to teach the save, spend, give. So if you teach that save, spend, give, and it doesn't always have to be to a church, but we want our kids to say, okay, if you got $100, could you take $10 of that money and give it to somebody that needed it more than you? Or buy something for someone that needed it more than you needed that $10?
There's that saying that givers get, right? And there's lots of different interpretations of that saying. But in what you're saying is that givers actually get a lot of satisfaction.
Right.
Probably more than what the money actually cost them.
Right. I think for my kids, this really set in one year when there was a birthday party. And it was a single mom raising her son. We knew him from baseball family. And so he had put on there, in lieu of bringing gifts, bring us items for the homeless shelter, because they donated and did a lot. So they took all this stuff, all these presents they had got in lieu of presents were all items they could donate and take to the homeless shelter. And I think our kids really got a big dose of reality watching that. So instead of opening birthday presents, they got all the stuff that they donated. And it would have been great if they had invited, everybody that came to the birthday party to also see that experience. I think it would have taken the kids, to an even deeper level.
Yeah, I think it's natural for kids not to kind of understand how good they have it, because they only have the one existence, right? And they haven't had enough life experience to sort of see how other people live and whatnot. And as parents, especially in our generation, we're all about our kids and giving them the best. And I think it's really useful for them to get out and kind of see how the other half lives. Yeah. And I don't say that in a derogatory way at all. But I think it would help to just see that not everybody has what they have.
This is not normal for everyone.
Help them to exercise that gratitude, sort of gene.
Definitely.
And really get it.
But really teaching them the value of the dollar. And, to Jim Wang's point, you can do this as early as elementary age, because if you buy it for them, then they don't realize that stuff actually costs money. They don't know the difference between $1 and $5 and $10. Where if they had to save and earn like tour money or something like that, and then actually spend it, they would feel that.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't say this to embarrass my son who's here in the studio today, but the things that he's bought with his own money, I'm sure that he appreciates more than just the things that have been given to him. And that's natural, and that's normal, and that's good.
Yeah.
And so,
Brian, you don't want to chime in and what's one thing you've bought for yourself that you're proud of? You don't have to say it. I'll say it for you. Is there one thing that you bought yourself that your mom and dad did not buy? You saved your own money and you bought it for yourself that you were really proud of?
I just checked with him. I think he bought his own GoPro, and he uses it a lot, and he produces really cool videos with it. And I think that I actually know that he just really cherishes that over he has lots of other similarly priced things, and I think that that's one of his favorite things. He's also just kind of going to walk out of the studio now if we keep picking on him.
No, I won't ask you anything else. But to your point, there was something he was proud of because he bought it with his own money.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. And that's the kind of thing that you teach them early on. I think another little point would be when your kids are elementary school age and you go to the grocery store, because they go along with you usually, right? And they're asking for stuff. Like, I still don't think I can go to the grocery store without a kid asking me for something.
Yeah.
But when they're really little, they really ask for a lot. And I think you can kind of help teach them that. Well, that costs a lot more than something else that we might need.
You could give them a budget.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of an interesting idea.
Well, this is our grocery budget. This is how much you get to spend on cereal or like other items you're buying. We're not buying toys, but you can buy grocery items with this. What's your favorite stuff? And I'll have the final say.
I can remember my daughter actually much more vividly. Every time we would go to the grocery store, we would stop at that stupid toy department at the grocery store. You know, it's like ridiculous. There's nothing worth buying there.
Conveniently placed right by the kids' cereal aisle.
But man, we had to stop at that thing every time. And now to date, she still has the largest stuffed animal collection of anybody that I know. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's big.
It's funny. Madeline, which is going to be 17 this year, has been making her to-do list of what they're doing because we've been redoing the kids' rooms and stuff for summer. And on her list, she's like, I'm getting rid of stuffed animals. It was on her to-do list.
Oh, well, my daughter might be interested. You know, she's never seen a stuffed animal that she didn't like unless it was dirty.
She's got to adopt all the pets.
Yeah. Rachel's going to have a Noah's Ark of stuffed animals someplace. But what's interesting about Rachel, now that I'm going to pick on her even though she's not here, what's interesting about Rachel is with her own money, she will go and buy stuffed animals, but she's actually price sensitive.
There you go. That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to teach them is to understand the value of a dollar here.
It's in Madeline, you know, she's got her first job now. So she works at Sonic. She doesn't make a lot. And then, you know, they rely on tips. They really pay them like a wait staff.
Does she roller skate?
She roller skates.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Does she ever fall down?
She has.
With food?
She has one. Yes, she has one. She was so embarrassed. And you know, Madeline, she's a lot like Chris. We joke that she's like him in a female body. And, you know.
So soft-spoken?
Yeah, really.
Really? Okay, that's a little bit interesting.
She can do it just, I think, because she's half mine, but like.
Wasn't she here in the studio? She was far from soft-spoken.
Well, my kids grew up with me on radio. Okay. You know what I mean? So I literally have audio. I think Pat might even have it back there somewhere of Adelisa probably when she was about 4 in the studio saying, "Love where you live. My mom will fix it."
Come to think of it, it was actually Adelisa that was here in the studio.
Was that who you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's who I was thinking.
Okay. Oh, yeah. She is not soft-spoken at all.
No.
She would take over the whole show if we let her.
Yeah, the whole building.
Yeah, she would.
Every show.
She would. That's it. Yeah. So totally different. Adelisa is absolutely my child. You're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. Today we are talking about a fun topic, which is tips on how to teach your kids about money. We're hope to give you some value today in the show. And if you have a question or you want to chime in, you've got something maybe that's worked really well with your kids, we'd love to hear about it. Our studio call-in number is 888-404-1010, 888-404-1010. We'll be back in a minute.
Welcome back to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I am the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for sticking with us through the break here. And today's show's been a little bit fun. We're not talking about any IRS stuff really at all. It's tips on how to teach your kids about money. And you ran across a guy named Jim Wang, and he writes about personal finance stuff at wallethacks.com. He's also on Twitter at wallethacks, HACKS.
Absolutely. I just thought that the article was really good. And a lot of the shows that we do are based on other people's work because as I'm doing show prep and trying to think of, new and unique, topics for the show, then I borrow their work, give them credit. Yeah. And so, and that's what we did in this show.
Well, you always see stuff and it sparks ideas. Sometimes it goes in a different direction, but it's fun.
Yeah, it can get pretty boring to talk about, IRS tax liens and owing lots of tax debt and how to solve those over and over and over. And I could do that in my sleep, but who would really want to listen to that? So the hopes were that we could do some shows that were a little bit different.
And rest assured, anything that we're talking about that's IRS related will be plugged right in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you're a kid and you have an IRS problem, like Darrin did when he was like 12. I don't know.
No, I had one when I was
older,
I had one when I was 18 though.
That's close enough.
I had one of those jobs where I was putting up real estate signs for the developments. And they would go up on Friday and come down on Sunday because code enforcement didn't care. They would look the other way on the weekends. But boy, if you left that sign up there on Monday morning, and I did sometimes, but if they got left up on Monday morning, somebody get a call and they'd be held to pay. But anyway,
they yank them down, throw them away. We leave them up.
I don't think they look the other way. They just don't work on the weekends.
That's exactly what it is.
That could be. And this was many centuries ago in a land far, far away. But I got a 1099, and that was my first that was sort of my first exposure to taxes and a tax problem and whatnot. And I actually needed my stepfather to call the IRS for me and get me into my very first installment agreement at like age 18.
Little did you know that would be your career path.
And then subsequently, again, coincidentally and kind of bizarrely, right after that, I think my next job was working at a printing company that actually printed tax forms. It was called Tax Forms Printing.
See, all the arrows were pointing
really,
in that direction.
Kind of bizarre. And at Tax Forms Printing, I was a customer service rep, and I helped customers decide and purchase, their W-2s, their 941s, their 1099s, W-3s, all those tax forms. So I've had this exposure to the IRS and taxes and what forms to use and whatnot from a really early age.
Back when they used to do that, and they used to print them like at Office Depot and Staples and stuff too, but they don't, it's all like online now.
Yeah, most of it's online. I think the W-2s and a few of the forms are still, you still have to buy from a printer because they have that special optical ink, some kind of special ink that makes it so that the IRS's antiquated computers can read them better.
Oh my gosh.
Now you could use an iPhone or any smartphone and it could read any piece of paper basically perfectly. Right. I don't know if it can do the OCR perfectly, but
what's the OCR?
The optical character recognition. But I don't know how important that is anymore, but you would think that the IRS would have good enough computers.
A little bit better technology, just a little. Yeah. They didn't go to iPads yet or anything? Just kidding.
I might have seen a revenue officer with an iPad, but I can't remember. I don't see them in person all that often. So
might have to pop on over there after the show and say, we were talking about your technology this morning. I want to see what y'all got going on.
Yeah, on the list of things that I would like to do this morning after the show, going over to the IRS and hanging out, it's not super high, no. But
going back to Mr. Jim Wang at Wallet Hacks, we were talking about some ways that you can teach your kids about money, and we talked about like elementary school all the way up to preteen and teenagers.
Yeah, the elementary school age, just to recap real quick, we talked about helping them save some of their money for their gifts from their parents and relatives and stuff like that, and put that money in a piggy bank. I think I was actually about in my 40s before I actually filled a piggy bank. I kid you not. I just one time I got this really cool piggy bank, and when I was about 40, and I was like, I'm going to fill that thing up, and it's big. And it took years, but it was kind of fun. When I emptied the piggy bank, there was, I forget how much money, $200.
Yeah, I'm sure. But, so did you open accounts for your kids? We did.
Oh, yeah.
We opened kids savings accounts.
Oh yeah, the kids have accounts. They have debit cards.
And that's what I was going to ask you. What age did you guys do the debit cards? Ryan's saying 13.
Ryan's saying 13, and and Rachel just turned 13, and she just got hers.
Yeah.
And so now we're in the land of debit cards. Wow,
I know.
It's kind of scary.
So Adelisa's been asking. We're like, no, you're 11, and you're definitely not ready yet. And actually, I stuck her money in a CD. Because I'm like, she's not going to spend any. We're not going to let her do it. The interest is not that much, but she's going to make more than it's sitting in a kid's savings.
So she can get 1% or something.
I forget. It's a little higher, but not much. It's more than a savings account was paying.
And she cannot access the CD till she's 47.
No.
You just doubled your chance of identity fraud now. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
what?
did.
By having a CD?
No, because I just said with the age of the kids.
No, not only that, he just doubled, more debit cards out there floating around the family.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But we know how to deal with that. It's really not that bad. On a debit card, you're not even responsible you're only responsible up to $50.
Oh, I thought it was $500
on any kind of fraudulent transaction. It's like $50. So.
Oh, that's good.
But it's interesting. I was asking you what age because Nick's 14, and I still won't give him a debit card because he's not ready.
Yeah, I was going to say
he's not ready.
You have to go by the maturity and responsibility level of each kid, and it might not be right. By no means are we saying 13 is the right age.
But I was curious what your age was.
Yeah, that's what we did in our family, is because we're trying to teach them about money. So,
and then it's probably a good time to be talking about credit card too, because I noticed we've talked about that as well. And then I told you we bought a car last week. So Madeline's always saying, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" I don't know how to do anything. We're like, "Well, we're going to go buy a car. If you want to see how it's done, let's go." And then food got in the way. She had to go to dinner.
So, Jim Wang talks about how to teach your teenagers, and he says around this age, they might have an allowance or do odd jobs around the neighborhood for pay, and you can open a bank account for them. It'll have to be a joint account, he says. You go through the process of physically going down to the bank, opening an account, and giving them the bank card. You can get better interest rates from an online bank account, but the process of going to a branch is a teachable moment, something that won't stick nearly as well if you open an account online. Now, I wish Ryan was actually mic'd up and was willing to talk, because I know that the family went down to the bank with Rachel last week. It might have been this week. Anyway, recently.
That's it. Just call Rachel. She'll talk.
And they were there for hours on the show, or not on the show.
On the show.
They were there for hours at the bank, doing all the paperwork and stuff like that. But I'm really glad that they did it, because it was a teachable moment for her.
It is, yes. And it's the other thing too that he mentions is periodically going online to check the balance, or hit an ATM to check the balance. Now, I have my kids linked where I can see their account online. So when I log in, I can check to see their balance. If they get overdrawn, I get a notification. It hasn't really happened, but that safeguard is there.
But to Pat's point, he was talking about ID theft. It's really important that you check the balance at least, I don't know, once a week or so, because
my wife does it daily.
Yeah, I don't quite hit it daily, but pretty close within every day or two. And I don't think a kid needs to do it every day or two, but at least once a week they should log on, to the bank or go to an ATM and make sure that the money's still there. And I think that's also part of the sort of the psychological game. That your money's there
ever makes them go, oh my gosh, my money was there and now it's not there. You said it was going to be there. You see a kid like freaking out about that?
Yeah, but it
ever
could be
concerned? Ryan's shaking his head. Yeah, that's a concern.
But if it really happened, if there really was an ID theft issue, where there was an unauthorized withdrawal or something, again, it would be kind of negative. But you could use that as a teachable moment. Okay, well, this is not good, but this is how we handle this. You call the bank and you go through all that, and you're going to get your money back, because that's the way the system works. The
other thing, too, we've tried to teach our kids, even though they have the debit cards, is to go, like, you can buy those prepaid cards at the dollar store, right? And you spend $1, but then you load it with cash or your ATM card or whatever. That way, when you're buying stuff online on whatever site they want to buy from, you're using that prepaid gift card, debit card, and not your actual debit card that you would swipe or use otherwise.
Yeah, and there's even some... this is kind of a side point, but even some credit cards will give you like temporary throwaway numbers to use online, which is kind of a cool feature as well.
I don't know why they haven't done that more.
Yeah,
like that would make sense if your bank, like you could just trigger an intelligent action to get a number, like a temporary number, like a one-time use number. That's fabulous.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. That's why they don't do it.
All right, so when we come back, we're going to continue on and talk a little bit more about how you can continue to teach your kids about money even as they enter the college age, which neither one of us are there yet, Darrin, but we will be before you know it.
I know. It's right around the corner for me.
Well, you are listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show with Mr. Darrin Mish. I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell, and today's topic is all about how to teach kids about money. And very special thanks to Jim Wing for the idea. We'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome back to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I am the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. Today's been a fun show.
Kind of a fun show. It's kind of personal. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. We're talking about tips on how to teach your children about money.
Totally running live. So if you listen to the show often and you expect commercials at a certain time, they might be a little different this morning.
Yeah, because we have the human error factor going on right now.
Pat's got it. He's got this train.
He's a trained professional, been doing this for a long time.
So it's interesting because today's topic is all about how to teach your kids about money. And my daughter called, but we stream live usually on our phones when we're in the studio. So I called her back and she's here with us on the air.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Madeline.
We were talking about your job at Sonic. Saving money. What's your takeaway? What's the one thing you had to save your money for and buy on your own that you really appreciate?
You got some goals for your birthday?
Me?
Yeah.
I want to save up for my Mustang.
But what's the one thing that you've already purchased that you had to buy with your own money that we wouldn't buy that you saved?
20 grand.
Hey, walk away. You got some background noise. Your four-wheeler.
Well, there you
My
go.
four-wheeler.
There you go.
And you love that four-wheeler, don't you?
Oh, yes.
It's because you bought it with your own money.
Yes.
Darrin was asking me if you ever, if you're a skating car hop, and I said yes. And he asked if you ever fell, and I said yes. And he asked if you ever spilled food, and I said yes.
Yeah, I fell the first day, and I had like 4 Route 44 drinks, which is like the biggest size cup we have, and then 4 like meals, and I tripped over a little piece of mulch, and I only dropped a medium thing of French fries.
Wow.
And did not drop the 4 Route 44s.
I was expecting to hear like that you
oh
had
my gosh, I was like dancing on the skates in the middle of the road.
What did the guy say to you? Didn't he? He saw you do that and he said something, didn't he?
No, the mom did, and she like ran out of her car. She said, "Oh, are you okay?" I was like, "No, I'm fine. Is your food okay?" She goes, "I don't care about the food. Are you okay?"
At least she had her priorities right.
Yeah, and then this grandma, she was sitting on patio eating, and she was like, "I saw you fall. I'm just going to give you a hug."
That's awesome.
So there's some nice
Thank
people
you
out
for
there.
being awesome, people. That's somebody's kid, you know?
Yeah, it's your kid.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, you have interaction at McDonald's drive-thru or whatever. That's somebody's kid.
Yep, that's for sure.
So, all right, Madeline, hang on. We're going to keep talking about how to teach your kids with money. So feel free to chime in on anything we're chatting about if you think it's appropriate. But we were talking about college, like going into the college age.
Well, let me back up real quick because I wanted to talk about teenagers, and that's the time really to have that conversation when we talk about credit card debt. And I really wish, I really wish somebody had talked to me about this, and they probably did. Okay, I was just a super headstrong teenager. Like I knew everything. That was my thought process. I certainly didn't know everything, but I felt like I knew everything, and I didn't take advice well. But I wish somebody had talked to me about the downfalls of credit card debt and how compound interest works and how, it might feel good to get that free tank of gas. I'll never forget. My first credit card was a mobile gas card, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever because you didn't have to actually have the green money in your wallet to put gas in your tank so you could go places.
Use this little piece of plastic.
And I swear it wasn't 2 months before I had more money on that card than I could afford to pay back. And so then what happened is I was in the same position where I still needed to buy gas, right? But I couldn't do it on that card because now it's maxed out. And now I got to pay the minimum payment on that card in order to...
And still buy gas.
And still buy gas. And I just wish that somebody had been a little bit clearer with me on the evils of credit card debt. It took me a while to kind of figure it out. And so I think that's the time to do it.
Before they, like, I know they sign these kids up in college and just hand them to them like free candy. But I think instead of giving it to them, they should be required to take a class about credit card debt.
That's the other thing. I got a Gold American Express card in college without a job.
Yeah. How do they do that?
No credit limit. And what do they expect? I mean, you're a kid. You're going to be irresponsible. That's what kids do. It's
I guess they figure, you probably have a parent there that's willing to help you make the minimum payment, and that's all they want because they get the interest from it.
I think it's crack cocaine myself. I think they're trying to get you hooked. They're trying to get you addicted. They're trying to establish that lifestyle early. Spend. Pay us huge interest with minimum payments and never get out of debt and always owe the bank. I think that's what the banks are all about.
And think about it. There's some kids that are, they may have more and then they'll see somebody else and say, oh, well, I really want that. Or I really want a new outfit. Or I really would like to have that. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, when we're younger, we have much more trouble with impulse control than we do when we're older. At least that's hopefully what happens. Is that as you gain some age, you gain some wisdom, and you get a little bit more control.
It's a hard thing to teach kids. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but I think about, how do you teach your kids about credit cards? And the only way I can think of, is if you have a credit card and you pull that out and you show them, look, I carried a balance. Here's the interest that now I have to pay because I borrowed this money.
Yeah, that could work, but it's still kind of conceptual, right? One way could be if they want something, they just got to have that thing, whatever it is. Then maybe you buy it for them and you make them
charge
pay.
Interest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea.
It's like, okay, we can do this, but.
And then do almost like a little P&L with the truth in lending and show them how much they're going to repay with interest.
That thing was $100, but you paid me back $200 because it took you a year.
I love that thought. That's a great idea, Darrin. I think we're going to have to practice with that one.
That might work. You got to make it negative, right? I mean, if you don't want to encourage that behavior, it has to be some negativity associated. Quick chicken story, okay? So we've got these...
There's always a chicken story.
We've got a barn, and it's part of it's has walls, and part of it's just open. And there's a whole bunch of chicken feed on the dirt in the open area. And so we're not putting any more chicken feed out there right now because there's plenty. Okay. And so the crows are coming in and eating it. That's fine, whatever. But we have 3 sandhill cranes that are coming in underneath the covered area and eating chicken feed. And I'm still okay with that, except for they chase and try to hurt the chickens. And that's and that's like when the gloves come off. That's not good. So,
that's my chicken you're chasing.
So we went out there and chased them around on the buggy and tried to and we were loud and really obnoxious and stuff. We're just trying to chase it. We're trying to cause
not want to come back.
We're trying to cause a negative imprint. We're not going to hurt them. By no means would we ever hurt a sandhill crane, but we're trying to cause a negative imprint so that every time they're near the barn, like something negative happens, and so they won't come back. Because I don't mind them on the property. I just don't want them hurting the chickens because that's,
right,
not cool.
Maybe you put a little feed somewhere else for them.
Well, I think that even might be bad because, they're wild animals. There's plenty of food out there. They're just lazy. They're like bears. It's like Yogi Bear. He just wants to eat picnic baskets. He doesn't want to do anything.
The sandhill crane is being lazy.
Anyway, so yeah, I think if you're teaching your kids about money, you want to, and you're going to do the little credit card experiment that I'm talking about, you want to go ahead and make it negative enough so that they get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that they can get kind of over the that rush when you buy something. Like my kids get $100 toy and they play with it for like a day.
Yeah.
And then it's over. It's done. So it causes me to be real hesitant about $100 toys.
Exactly. Let them buy the $100 toys. They can earn some chores.
A short aside. That's why we don't open all of our Christmas gifts on Christmas Day. We're really weird like that.
You guys do the Hanukkah thing?
We ration them out because otherwise they just open everything and then it's like over and nothing gets really played with and they're done.
It's really kind of cool. Like you just open one present a day.
We spread it out for like a week.
I love that idea.
Sometimes longer.
That's fantastic.
It drives the kids crazy, but I think it's good.
Ryan, do you like that? He's not listening. He totally checked out in the other room with Pat.
Yeah, he went in the other room where he's not going to be put on the spot. But
he's waving. I don't even know if he hears me talking to him. I don't think he can.
Pat can make that mic that's next to his head live if he really wanted to. But anyway.
But going back to Jim in the college age, and this is interesting because looking at this information that's in here, it is the trickiest time to teach about money because the kids think they're adults, which really they are. They are.
I'm making a face like, okay.
Okay.
Legally.
If they shoot somebody, they're going to jail. Right? Yeah. They're going to be tried. They're an adult.
Newsflash, if you're 14 and you shoot somebody, you're going to jail.
Well, okay, there comes the lawyer term. But, if you...
I know what you're saying.
If you wreck the car and you're 14 or you're 18 and you wreck the car on your own insurance, there's a difference.
All right, hold on. Let me say it like a lawyer would say.
Yes,
the age of majority is 18 years of age. That's how you say it. The age of majority.
So what does that mean in
That's
real
when you're an adult.
Terms?
You're actually an adult. You can enter into contracts. You can.
Why do they call it the age of majority?
I don't know. I don't remember. But it's called the age of majority.
Okay.
So at 18, you're technically an adult, but you're not because you're not. You're actually not psychologically or emotionally developed enough to be making some of these decisions, and so. You should be teaching your college age kids about money too.
But they could, if they don't live at home, it's even harder because now you don't have your thumb on everything you're doing. It's kind of hard to teach them those lessons. And that's what Jim is saying is if they're living out of the house, it's even more important to help them avoid credit card debt.
Yeah. When I was in college, my folks had a real hands-off approach, and that was my fault. It was because I was such a headstrong person, and I'm still kind of a headstrong person, but I didn't want any advice and I didn't want any help. I wanted money. I wanted that help, but I didn't want any help in deciding how to spend the money. And so I had to learn a lot of lessons on my own just from the school of hard knocks. And I can remember calling them and basically complaining that I didn't have any food or I didn't have much food. And them just kind of going, yep, well, probably ought to spend your money better. And that's true because I wasn't spending it wisely.
Is that what they told you?
Yeah. And actually for me, my personality, that was perfect.
Well, think about it. If they tell you you're not spending your money wisely, but they know they gave you enough money for that month, you are going to make a different decision the next month if you want to eat.
Right. And you really should kind of go through that many suffering. I'm not talking about like I was starving to death.
Trust me, if you're in college, you're not going to die and you're not going to starve.
But I did eat a lot of top ramen and a lot of lettuce because lettuce was cheap and tuna and things like that, macaroni. Not really because that's all I could afford. It's because that was all I could afford with the lifestyle that I was choosing to try to live. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I was not spending most of my money on food. Let's just put it that way.
You're not going to, there's things you want to buy when you're in college. And that's a choice.
There was a lot of beverages that I was really interested in back then.
And that took the priority over food.
It did. And you know what? Looking back, for me, it worked out okay. But the time to teach your college age kids about money and finances and how to handle their budget and things like that that really should continue on through college years so that you can help them make better decisions for when they get out of college.
Jim also mentions about kids.gov. It's a website that provides money sections for kids where they can learn about saving, spending, and earning money.
I've taken a look at that, and kids.gov is a really cool site for sure. If you have kids and you're interested in what we're talking about today, then you really ought to go check that out.
And there's also some more things there on kids.gov, and I guess we'll talk about that when we get back after the break since the music's rolling. I could just keep talking because it is a live show and it won't cut me off, but Pat probably would at some point. I'm just teasing. Hopefully it's a fun show. Pat, are you having fun today?
I'm having a great time.
All right, cool. All right, hopefully we're entertaining you guys too. And our call-in number is 888-404-1010. We are here in the studio, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Welcome back to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I am the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. And Pat George back there is on his toes this morning. He is on fire. He's rolling this show, man. He's like
I'm on
paying
fire
attention.
so I don't get fired.
He's using ancient technology here to make sure that we come out to you live and clearly.
Well, I mean, there's always little things. Like when I called Madeline, I thought it would just plug in if I do it like normally. No, he's got to do it through the board, but I didn't know that. So he was paying attention.
So one of our biggest fans actually sent me a message on Facebook.
Oh,
and
yay.
what he did, which is really kind of cool, is he Googled, what does the age of majority mean?
Thank you.
Which is kind of cool because although I said what it meant on the air live, like
He's
a real
giving-
lawyer, he's going to give me the Wikipedia answer, which is the age of majority is the threshold of adulthood as recognized or declared in the law. It's a bunch more stuff too,
Okay.
but it's like that very moment when minors cease to be considered children and they can assume like an adult activity. I think the ability to enter into contracts is probably one of the biggest things.
Yep.
And we don't think about that often, but like literally a 16-year-old can't really even go get his car fixed.
No, they can't.
Without his parent, because I pulled that one on somebody one time when I wasn't
Did you
18.
really when you were 16?
Yeah,
You
the
were
guy-
such a lawyer even back
The
then.
guy was trying to rip me off, and so I made him put it all back. She's looking at me like you're crazy. Well,
I
he
have
was.
nothing to say
He was
for
trying to rip-
once.
He was trying to rip me off, so I didn't want to get ripped off.
So should we go back to some of these little things on kids.gov? We're going to have time? No? I wonder if the Mint pointer for parents is kind of like Mint, which is like an Intuit product. Do you know?
I don't know, but it probably is. Let's talk about this question. We got a really good question, and that was it was from Mark, and it says, as a full-time student, am I exempt from federal income taxes? And this is kind of
college student.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those questions I get every so often where people think, well, if I'm a full-time student, then I shouldn't have to pay taxes. And I agree with you that you shouldn't have to pay taxes, or maybe it would be awesome if you didn't have to pay taxes. But sorry, the answer is your student status has pretty much zero impact on your tax bill.
So can I tag on to Mark's question?
Yeah, sure.
What about Madeline making money at her job?
Oh, she's paying taxes.
But I mean, at what point does she have to file a return? And at what point do we include it in ours?
She's going to have to file a return like this at the end, next year.
Isn't there a minimum amount you have to make? It's like $600 or $800 or
There's
something.
a threshold, but she's already made more than that, hasn't she?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Okay, I'll look it up real quick. But there is a threshold.
I'm going to be calling Darrin because my daughter's going to have a tax problem. This is lovely.
No, you're not. No, she's absolutely not. She's going to end up
She just
getting
does an easy file.
She's going to end up getting a refund, most likely.
But what about if we claim her? Does that matter?
Yeah, you'll go ahead and claim her because you're going to be providing more than 51% of her.
I would say so.
Of her support, right? But where it comes into play is, interestingly enough, when we're talking about college kids, right? Which we were talking about in the last segment. Some parents actually are providing 51% of their college age kids' support, but the college age kid also has a good job, and so at some point in every kid's life, you have to make that decision. Like, when does the kid start claiming himself?
So there's no clear rules on that?
Well, it's math.
Okay.
It just turns out to be a pretty simple math equation. You just look at it and go, well, it makes sense for Junior to start claiming himself because if not, he's going to have a big tax bill.
What age do you think what amount of income do you think it makes sense for them to file their own return? And at that point, you can't claim them, right?
Right.
Or they could do zero, or how does that work?
Yeah, they just don't claim themselves. There's
So
a way
they
to
do zero.
It. Yeah, there's a way to do it where you don't take the personal exemption. Yep.
Gosh, I didn't think about this, but that's what happened when your oldest starts to work. You're
Yeah, another thing that's kind of bad is that we lose the child tax credit at age 17.
We do?
Yeah, like what's up with that? Like they're expensive between 7 and 18.
The most expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I don't know why Congress is
Hey,
like,
so-
yeah, we're going to give away this child tax credit for every kid. It's going to be like $1,000, but
So
you know what?
Madeline-
We're going to stop it at 17.
So Madeline's 17 this month. So what does that mean? Next year I get it or I don't? That's half a year.
I don't think you get it. We'll have to look it up for you, but I don't think you get it.
I'm asking you all these like right on the fence
Yeah.
questions.
She's asking me. She's trying to put me on the spot. And she's actually succeeding.
But you know what? You've gotten really good at it. Because had we done this a couple years back, you would have clammed up like a mussel in a shell. Here comes the train.
That's about time for the IRS train wreck of the week.
It's right on time.
This is the segment of the show where we talk about someone who came in and their IRS situation was an absolute train wreck. Today's story is kind of a cool one. It went really, really well. This gentleman came in. He was a little older. He's retirement age, and he owed $172,556. That's a lot of money, $172,000.
A retirement age, I would say.
And we're going over his finances, and we're trying to come up with a solution for him. And we had a problem. And here's the problem: he owned his condo that he lives in free and clear. This is a problem,
How?
right?
Why?
Because I think the
Was
condo.
he in Florida? He was in Florida?
Yeah, he's in Florida, and I think the condo is worth about $75,000. I don't know, something like that. It wasn't like hundreds, but it was under $100,000. But he owned it free and clear. And here's the problem: because the IRS normally is going to want you to liquidate the value of your assets and pay them. Okay. And so remember, when we calculate an offer and compromise, which is the program where you can make a deal to settle for less, the calculation is monthly disposable income times 12 plus assets. Now, he didn't have any disposable income. He was living on like $1,700 a month or something. I knew I didn't have a problem with disposable income, but when we put the math in, we got this problem. We got this big asset,
So
right?
you have to add in 75.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you have to add in 80% of $75,000 in
Okay.
this case, right? So it's a big fat number, and it was actually more than he could afford to pay, or was at least comfortable paying. So what we did is we filed, and we never talk about this on the show, but we filed a special kind of offer and compromise called Effective Tax Administration. It's kind of a dumb name, but what it really means is it would be unfair to force the taxpayer to liquidate their assets to pay the tax bill.
Because then he would be homeless.
Yeah, so we made that argument. We knew it was like a long shot. All along, we're like, you probably got less than a 50% chance of this working, but let's try it. We went ahead and tried it, and I'll never forget, the offer examiner was giving me a hard time throughout this whole case. She was being rude and kind of nasty and stuff. And
It's not like it's a $750,000 condo, though.
and finally one day she goes, I'm just going to recommend it for acceptance. I don't think management is going to do this, but I'm going to recommend it for acceptance. I'm like, yeah, right on. So
That's half the
anyway,
battle.
we ended up settling that case for $7,066. So $172,000 settled for $7,066, and he
didn't have to sell his
and
house.
He gets to keep the condo. Didn't even have to refi it or do anything. Worked really, really well. And what I really
So-
like about that
Go ahead.
is that, when he passes away in 20, 30 years, whatever it is, when he passes away, that condo, if he's still living there, that condo will get to pass to his heirs instead of the Treasury of the United States, so they can waste the money.
I'm just curious if we really should invite some of your past clients on the show. I think that would be awesome because I'd love to hear, like, for example, in this story where he owed $176,000, he settled it for $7,000. He's retired. His home is free and clear. What is he doing now that he couldn't do before when he had that tax liability? I would love to have one of your customers answer that question, and they could be Jane Doe or whoever they want to be. But I'm just really curious to know.
I've asked a lot of clients to come on the show, and I haven't had it.
Everybody says no?
I've had one taker. One guy is willing to do it.
Let
and
me
I really
ask
need to reach
him.
out to him.
They'll say
see if
yes
he'll
to
do
me.
it. In this gentleman's case, I don't think his day-to-day life is going to change all that much. Other than I bet you he sleeps better, and I bet you the quality of his life now that he doesn't have to worry about the IRS is enhanced tremendously.
I
And that's good enough for me.
I guarantee there's something that they're doing, whether it's a small little side business, something. There's something they are going to do that they didn't do.
Well, that's the other thing that can happen with folks is that once the IRS problem is resolved, then they have avenues of opportunity that are available to them that they didn't have before.
Well, you're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. We had a great time with you today trying to teach your kids about money. If you want to get Darrin, he's at 888-GET-MISH.
The website is getirshelp.com.
And we're out.